Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing. And we've got another new setup out here today that we haven't shown on the channel yet, and one that I don't have a lot of rounds through. Plus, it's been a good number of years since I've had this one out of the safe, so I'm definitely curious to see how well it actually performs when we put it through our normal testing. So for the setup I've got out here today, I've got this guy. This is a Ruger M77 Mark II, chambered in .308. As for the barrel length, I measured it out from the muzzle down there to the beginning of the receiver here is 21 inches. So I'm not sure which way Ruger measures it, all the way back to the end of the receiver here or to the chamber up here, but either way to the beginning of the receiver it is 21 inches. And up on top here is a Nikon Buckmaster 4.5 to 14 by 40. Definitely nothing super, impressive, but definitely plenty good enough to do the job. And for the rounds I've got out here today, I've got some of these. Now, yes, these are some older Federal Premium rounds, but I believe this is what that rifle is zeroed with. So to start out with our testing, we're going to start here. These ones in particular are the .308 150 grain Nosler with the ballistic tip rounds, and here's what they look like. They just have that green plastic tip on them there. Now, like I said, I think that's what that rifle's zeroed with, so we should still be pretty close, although we're not necessarily shooting for bullseyes today, we're shooting for groups. So as long as we're on the paper, we're going to be good to go. But as for the test, we're going to do it the same way we usually do it. I have a target set up down at 100 yards. We're going to be using the square target that's taped on my little stand down there. I also have the chronograph, so we'll be able to see what kind of speed we're running, especially since those don't have a speed marked on the box. And as for our groups, we're going to shoot 3 groups. They're going to be 3 shots each, and that should give us a pretty decent idea of how well this setup actually performs. So let's get you guys a view of the target and the chronograph and get to shooting our groups here. Then we'll take a look at our chrono numbers and we'll measure them up and see how well they perform. So let's head over here and shoot them and see what they can do. Alright, so now let's take a quick look here at our chronograph numbers and see what kind of velocities we were getting here. It seemed like high 2700s, and it seemed pretty consistent as well. But let's go through them here and see what it gave us. So for a high, we had 2807. For a low, we had 2772, and that gave us an average of 2785. So for 150 grain .308 projectile, high 2700s, definitely seems to be pretty normal, nothing too special to see. But really what I like to see is how consistent they were. I mean, that was what, a 40 or 50 feet per second extreme spread, something like that. So definitely not too bad at all for a factory loaded ammunition, that is. But how did they do as far as accuracy goes? I think it's pretty middle of the road, but let's go over here anyway and take a look. Alright, so now we're looking at our groups here, and right off the bat, it seems pretty uninspiring, I guess, is the word I want to use there. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's definitely far from the best as well. And being a Nosler bullet like that, on one hand, I expected a little bit better, but on the other hand, I've also had a few rifles not really like the Nosler projectiles. So I guess it could kind of go either way with me on this one as far as what I expected versus what we got. But speaking of what we got, let's start off with that first group there in the middle and measure it and see what it gave us, because that might be our best group of the day is our first one. Okay, so that first group gave us a 1.45 inch group. Definitely not anything impressive. Is it good enough to take the deer camp? Sure, absolutely. But have we seen much better? Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that rifle can do much better than that too. So right off the bat, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's definitely not anything super precision accurate, that's for sure. But let's go up to that second group up in the top left and measure that one and see what we got there. Okay, so our second group gave us a 1.71 inch group. Definitely a little bit worse. I mean, you're still technically under 2 inches. and 2 inches is the threshold for a lot of people for a hunting rifle. But for me, I like to see 1 inch and under personally. So, I mean, still continuing the trend of not really anything too special. So let's go over to our third group in the top right and measure that one. Now that one we did have 2 that are pretty much touching. However, the overall size of the group is pretty much the same as the other 2. So at least they were consistent as far as the group size goes. But let's measure it anyway and see what it gave us. Okay, so that third and final group gave us 1.92 inches. So yes, you're still under the 2-inch threshold, but definitely we've got worse and worse as the groups went on. And I think it's pretty safe to say that that 1.7, 1.8 group size is about what we can get out of this rifle and this particular loading combination. I was definitely hoping for better, but I've had mixed results with Nosler projectiles in the past, so I guess it's just kind of a take it for what it is type of situation here. Not anything impressive by any stretch of the imagination, but it is still good enough for deer if that's what you had. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance? I was definitely hoping for better, there's no doubt about that. We definitely didn't see any, precision groups here, that's for sure. Now, is it good enough to take the deer camp? Yeah, within 100, 150 yards, that's plenty good enough. Now, I definitely think that this rifle can do a lot better than that. It's just a matter of finding a round that it really likes. And it may be a case of a different grain weight of bullet might really perform well out of it. But I definitely think it's worth testing some different rounds and seeing what we get here. Because there's very little doubt in my mind that that setup can do a lot better than that. So overall here, a little bit of a disappointment for today's test. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know, were you expecting a little bit better? Did that kind of surprise you, or is that about kind of what you thought we were going to see today? And if you've used any of these older gold box Federal Premium loads with the 150 grain Nosler Ballistic tips, what has been your experience with them, and have you gotten good accuracy, or is that about what you've seen? Leave a comment and let me know all that down below. But on that note, we do have a channel Instagram as well as a mailbox where you can send stuff to the channel. So if you're interested in any of that information, it will be in the description for you. But I'm going to jump back to it before we get rained on out here this afternoon. So I'll see y'all in the next one.